Grace and peace. I'm Brian Musser. I'm the Baptist Campus Minister at Drexel University, and this is Peace and Power Christian Fellowship, the peace of Jesus Christ to change our lives, the power of the Holy Spirit to change our world. And we are continuing our summer term Bible study on Heavy is the Crown, the rise and fall of the Hebrew kingdom, selected passages from Samuel and from Kings. We are in the fourth lesson of the series. We're looking at King Ahab, the Great and Terrible. This is the final video in the fourth lesson, the third video in the fourth lesson. The first video, we looked more at Jeroboam than at Omri or Ahab, and we kind of set the stage for how idolatry worked under Jeroboam. Last video, we looked at Omri and Ahab and how they upped the stakes, changing the idolatry into the worship, a poor worship of Yahweh with the idols, to a false worship of Baal instead of Yahweh. Even though they were great kings, they were not good kings, they were evil kings. This one, we're going to kind of look more at the prophet Elijah and how his engagement with King Ahab is a direct attack on Baal and the worship of Baal. So looking at some of this will be 1 Kings 17. Now Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, "As the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain for the next few years except at my word." So the prophet of God, Elijah, is causing a drought, a multi-year drought. Baal was the god of lightning, thunder, storms, and rain. And Elijah is saying, you know what? I am the prophet of Yahweh, the God of Israel. And although this is the one thing you're due, Baal, it's not going to happen for the next couple of years. And like the worship of Baal was transactional. And if you worship Baal at this time, it would cause the seasonal rains. Elijah saying, no, God's in control of that. Worshiping Baal doesn't cause that. You can worship Baal all you want, and it's still not going to rain. And he's directing this at Ahab. So now, moving on a little bit, sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, "Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food." So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town gate, a widow was there gathering sticks. So a couple notes here. One, it hasn't been raining for some time. Brooks dry up, creeks dry up, things like that. Elijah has been living at this brook water source and getting fed by ravens up until this point. But then God tells him to go to Zarephath and Sidon and be fed by a widow, a Sidonian widow. Jezebel was kind of the princess of Tyre and Sidon. And she was now queen in northern Israel. And she's the one who brought Baal worship into Israel. And Baal was supposed to be the one to produce the rain, the seasonal rains. So the queen of Israel, the princess of Sidon, the Baal worshiper Jezebel, could not stop or provide for her people during the drought, during this multi-year drought. However, a widow in Sidon was able to provide for Elijah, the prophet of God, instead. So this is a contrast between the power of God to provide for Elijah through a widow from Sidon versus the power of Baal, unable to provide for the Israelites through the queen of Israel, the princess of Sidon, and Baal worshippers. So this is also written, like directly engaging an engaging battle between Baal and Yahweh through Elijah versus Jezebel, through Elijah versus Ahab. And then we come to this passage, the Elijah, the Lord's prophet, against the prophets of Baal. Then Elijah said to them, I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces. Put on the wood, not set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord, the God who answers by fire. He is God. So which Baal's prophets, 450 Baal's prophets, or the one prophet of Yahweh? The prophets of the God of lightning, thunder, and storms and rain, or the prophets of this invisible desert mountain God Yahweh? Which one will be able to call lightning from the sky? That's the challenge. And as we read further in the passage, it is Yahweh that brings lightning from the sky and consumes the sacrifice. And then after that, the drought is broken by the prophet of Yahweh, Elijah. So this is a direct challenge to Baal versus Elijah. Which God is actually in control of the storms? Is it Baal with 450 prophets? This is supposed to be Baal's specialty. Lightning from the sky, fire from the sky. Or is it Yahweh and the one prophet Elijah? And this is just one of the things Yahweh does. And Yahweh wins. So, looking at this and just outlining this. Baal is the god of seasonal rains. Elijah is the prophet of God, makes it not rain for 3 years. Elijah is supernaturally fed during the drought by a widow from Jezebel's country. Baal is the god of lightning. Elijah calls fire down from heaven to consume the sacrifice when the 450 prophets of Baal fail to call fire from heaven to consume their sacrifice to Baal. And at the conclusion of these stories, the rain comes. So this is Elijah versus Ahab and Jezebel as a picture of Yahweh versus Baal. Elijah is victorious over Ahab and Jezebel. Yahweh is victorious over the false god Baal. So that is the challenge. The challenge isn't just the prophet versus king. The challenge is the true God of Israel versus their idol Baal. So just kind of wrapping things up here. Here's a chart of what happens with the line of Omri, one of the most powerful series of kings in northern Israel. Omri, the first one, has a peaceful death, but Ahab is killed in battle. Ahijah is killed in an accidental violent death, falling through kind of a floor or a ceiling. Joram, his brother, is killed by Jehu. Jehu, the following monarchy, wipes out the entire family of Omri, including Jezebel, which was prophesied and arranged by God. With these evaluations, the First Kings passages here are always, not only are they committing the sins of Jeroboam, but they're doing worse than Jeroboam in these things. Interestingly enough, the last one, Joram, the one who is actually killed by Jehu and supplanted, only commits the sins of Jeroboam. So he backs off the Baal worship from his predecessors, his brother, his father, his grandfather. That is kind of the line of Omri. All of them, except Omri, lead to a violent death. And that is a huge statement about God's opinion of the kings. The way a king's reign should end when it's in Kings is, and he rested with his fathers. None of these get that except Omri. And none of them, and all of them, their destruction is kind of prophesied by a prophet beforehand. So looking at some questions here, looking at this Baal versus Yahweh, Ahab, Jezebel versus Elijah, showing how God is actually more powerful than Baal. Do our lives demonstrate the power of God compared to other competing worldviews? Is God powerful in our lives? Is your life better because of Jesus? And if so, how? How would you describe how your life is good because of Jesus' presence in your life, because of your commitment to God, because of the Holy Spirit in your life? How would you describe the goodness of your life? And it might not be more successful, but it could be more peaceful. You could be a better person. How is it better? And then, is there something that you are tempted to compromise your faith for, whether relationships, success, acknowledgement and credit, material needs, something like that? The Israelites compromised their worship of Yahweh to worship Baal, mostly because of agricultural needs. And agricultural needs in that time were just physical wealth success needs. They wanted to grow good crops. They wanted to be able to eat. They wanted to be able to survive. And because of those fears, they were willing to worship a God who is not a God, because it provided practical ways to cause material success. Are we doing that with our lives in any sort of way? As always, there are two ways to join this conversation: in person Sunday nights at 5 p.m. in the JEMIC, weekly wrap-ups on YouTube and or WordPress. I'm all over the social media: Instagram, TikTok, WordPress, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Like, subscribe, and follow as appropriate. I enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully it continues real soon.